I predicted that the Detroit Lions would go 3-14 in 2020 and 2021, excuse me. And I basically nailed it. The reality is that Detroit went 3-13-1. So I didn't predict the tie, which if I had the foresight, I'm never going to predict a tie. So I basically nailed it. And in spite of getting the win-loss record basically right on point, I did dramatically change my opinion on Lions quarterback Jared Goff this year. We'll circle back to that. But going into the year, I felt actually kind of bad predicting a 3-win season for Detroit because I really like the coaching staff. I like what they're doing. I like the direction that this franchise is headed. I love Anthony Lynn, their offensive coordinator. Again, the direction in general the Lions are headed. I loved and still do love their new head coach, Dan Campbell. I'm a big fan of the guy. He's got, he started off his career in Detroit with that quote, "We're going to bite off kneecaps." And people attacked him and made fun of him for that. I said, look, what's the crime this guy's really committed? He got really passionate talking about football. And don't you kind of love that from your head coach? Yeah, was it a weird, goofy quote? I don't really care. It's not like he did anything wrong or committed a crime. It's a guy who, Dan Campbell has a ton of passion, and it shows in the way he talks about things. And my gosh, I would love to play for a coach like him. He's really just fully invested, and I'm rooting for him. Look, Detroit was actually competitive this year. And how many people, by the way, how many coaches in the NFL not only would choose Detroit, but want to be in Detroit, like Detroit? Like, Dan Campbell's a special guy. I love what he's doing there. And again, Detroit, they were very, very competitive. They won 3 games, but they were a lot better than their record would show. They actually, week 2, led the Packers 17-14 at halftime. They lost 3 games on last-second field goals: Baltimore, Minnesota, Chicago. All, 2 of those games they lost 19-17. One of them they lost literally on Thanksgiving Day on another last-second field goal. They lost to the Browns 13-10. They lost to Atlanta 20-16. They tied Pittsburgh, a playoff team. The Detroit Lions were so close to winning so many times last year in 2021. And they actually won 3 of their last 6 games. And for me, like, the highlight of the year, the big turning point for the Detroit Lions last year was Week 15 against Arizona, where everything finally came together. Detroit beat Arizona 30-12. Jared Goff, their quarterback, was 21 for 26 passing, 216 yards, 3 touchdowns. Craig Reynolds, their running back, had 26 carries for 112 yards. And the defense held the potent Cardinals offense to only 12 points all game long. And this was the first time watching Detroit beat Arizona was the first time I considered the possibility of Detroit maybe sticking with Jared Goff at quarterback and building around him. Jared Goff is not the best quarterback in the NFL. I'm not going to pretend that. No one believes that. But he's more talented than Jimmy Garoppolo. He's got a better arm. He's not really physically limited at all. He can't run, but he's got a beautiful, really strong arm. And he's made some good throws. I thought he showed he could play towards the end of the year. Go watch some of the throws down the stretch. You're like, hey, Jared Goff is playing at a really high level those final 6 games of the year. And I thought that Jared Goff showed he can play. And remember, he's really expensive to replace. And basically, I think, even though he's not like a top 5 quarterback, he's maybe a top 16. He's definitely like middle of the road to he's better than he is bad, if that makes any sense. And I think Detroit might be better off just building around him and saying, hey, we got Amon-Ra St. Brown, the rookie receiver from USC last year, who was the Lions' leading receiver. He had 90 catches for 5 touchdowns and 912 yards. Next year, they're going to get tight end TJ Hawkins back from injury. Jeff Okudah's coming back. They have 2 first-round picks in 2022. They got the number 2 overall pick, plus wherever the Rams pick ends up drafting at the end of the first round. I believe Detroit has this unique opportunity to look. Jared Goff isn't perfect. I don't love the guy, but he's hard to replace. He's really expensive, and I would really like to see what Jared Goff can do if you really commit to him and build around him and build a great football team around him. Because he's good enough that if you do build around him, I expect he will get better and better. And I think winning is possible in Detroit with him. And I don't know. It's kind of weird to feel good about a team after they went 3-13-1. Like, normally I'd say, oh, a 3-win season, awful. But I really like the direction that Detroit is headed. They were very competitive this year. They lost a lot of games they had a chance to win, which sounds bad, but it's actually kind of a blessing in disguise. I'm glad they lost a lot of, meaningless games because it allowed them to now get the number 2 overall pick. And I love their head coach, Dan Campbell. I don't love, but I like their quarterback, Jared Goff. He's solid. He could be much worse. Jared Goff could be, he's not awful. And really, what you want to avoid is you don't want an awful quarterback. You want someone who can win and play well. And we've seen Jared Goff play well. And if they can get the best out of him, the best out of Jared Goff isn't bad. And maybe I'm trying to convince myself. I don't know. But I think Detroit has got this unique position to build their roster with good draft picks coming up. And I don't know, man. I thought for the longest time, I was like, draft Malik Willis, but I think honestly, the best move for Detroit right now is build around Jared Goff. He's so expensive to get rid of, and he's good enough that I'm like, look, I'm here for it. Let's see it happen. Let's see Detroit invest in Jared Goff, build around him, and I feel weirdly optimistic about the Detroit Lions, and I normally would not feel good about a team after they had a 3-13 and 1 season, but the Lions, man, the direction they're headed is really compelling, and I'm actually very excited for the future in Detroit. I'm so very much rooting for Dan Campbell. Like, I remember before the Cleveland Browns won a playoff game, they were the team that was like the little engine that I was just like, man, can Cleveland please, for the love of anything, figure out how to be good and win a playoff game? Then they won a playoff game, and all my energy towards hoping Cleveland could be good again kind of got evaporated. I'm like, well, hey, they had their moment. And all that energy wanting, the little engine that could in Cleveland to do well, all that energy wanting a bad team to turn good is now shifted for Detroit to me, where I'm like, can Detroit please figure it out? It's been so long, and I really, really want to see the Detroit Lions be good and make it work. And I think, in my mind, the way to do that is to keep building your football team, build your offensive line, build your defensive line, and invest in Jared Goff's career, build around Jared Goff, and see if you can win with him. Because I truly believe that if you can build a great football team around him, continue to give him good coaching, the best out of Jared Goff is pretty dang good, and that is achievable. So I feel optimistic in a weird way about the Detroit Lions.